joining us now on our book talk segment. Great to welcome in. Really fascinating book. We've all heard of James Bond, but there was somebody that inspired that character by Ian Fleming, and this book is about that. It's called Into the Lion's Mouth, the true story of Dusko Popov, World War II spy, patriot, and the real-life inspiration for James Bond. We're joined today by the author Larry Loftis from over in the center part of the state in Orlando today. And Larry, good to talk with you. How are you?
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you, an opportunity to read through the book, and obviously anybody of a certain age knows who James Bond was, excuse me, either from the books or from the films, but I always kind of thought it was based on a British spy that maybe Ian Fleming knew about, but I didn't realize it was based on this man who was from Serbia, right?
He was from Serbia, but he was a British spy. He worked for both MI5 and MI6.
What gave you the inspiration to write about this particular man, Dusko Popov? Am I pronouncing his name right?
Sure. I actually stumbled across him. I was researching, I was planning to write and was working on and writing a historical fiction novel in the genre of espionage because it interests me, and I started researching Greatest Spy. I wanted real evidence of what spies had done so that my book sounded believable, my novel sounded believable. So I started researching Greatest Spy and Most Daring Spy, and all roads led to Popov. And I quickly realized this guy did more in real life than I was making up for my character. And then as I dug deeper, I found out that he was, in fact, the inspiration for Ian Fleming's James Bond. So I quickly jettisoned my book and focused on Popov full time. And, of course, this is it's nonfiction. This really happens to a real spy. It's a real person.
They actually, or Fleming actually saw Popov, right, in a casino, right? And isn't that the inspiration for Casino Royale, his first book?
Indeed. Because, right, Fleming's first novel was Casino Royale, and it's a thinly veiled recreation of what Fleming saw in Estoril. Estoril is a suburb of Lisbon. It's basically the French Riviera. It's very nice. And Fleming recreated in Real, I guess that's how you pronounce it, a fictional city in France. It's historical. I mean, everything about it. The hotels are identical, and so forth. And the casino in Estoril in 1941, when they were there, was the second largest casino, or strike that, it was the largest casino in Europe. And so Fleming is on assignment with his boss, Admiral John Godfrey, who was the director of naval intelligence. They were on a trip out to the U.S. to influence FDR to start a foreign intelligence, basically the OSS, which became the CIA. And on the return trip, Fleming follows Popov, who he would have known about through Admiral Godfrey, and follows him from the Palacio to the casino, and then watches something that Popov does, which is unbelievable, which Fleming recreates in Casino Royale. So you have Casino Estoril real life, 1941, recreated 1953 in Casino Royale. But the famous casino scene, who were the players? Fleming was, in fact, Mathis, the intelligence officer watching. Fleming is Mathis, Popov is Bond, and Le Chiffre was, in actuality, a Lithuanian gentleman by the name of, or Liechtenstein's, where he's from, named Bloch. So all those were real people at the time.
Yeah, great taking of something that really happened and then became the fictional character, but based on what really happened. And now, he was an interesting guy. Obviously, the stories that you tell in the book about Popov, and he really lived the life of what we imagine James Bond lives in the movies, but he lived it and more, didn't he?
Indeed. In fact, and Fleming could never say this. People wonder why wouldn't Fleming just say? Fleming could not say who Popov was because of the Official Secrets Act. The British had an ironclad rule for anybody that worked for MI5 or MI6 or British naval intelligence. They had to sign a release. They could not say anything. So until his death in '64, Fleming could never say anything about Popov or MI5 or MI6 or what Popov had done, because they would have been fined. He would have been fined and probably thrown in prison.
Now, he was
all of it was classified through the years.
He was a double agent, which you work for both sides. I never quite understood how that worked. You figure both sides are going to eventually find out.
Tricky. So he starts with Germany. He had gone to get a doctorate in law at Freiburg University, which he did. His best friend there, who is German, recruits him, once the war starts, recruits him to be a spy for Germany. Popov hates the Nazis, as does his friend. His friend's German, so he has to work for the Abwehr or else be on the front line someplace. If you're German and you don't join the army, you're executed for treason. So his friend joins the military intelligence, recruits Popov. They both hate the Nazis, and Popov doesn't know, but he thinks, I bet Johnny brought me in just so I would go take this to the British. So Popov does. He takes it to the British, doesn't tell anybody, doesn't even tell his own family, and becomes a double agent. So he ends up working for MI5 and MI6. And then later, when the Germans sent him to the U.S., the British sort of hand him off to the FBI.
Yeah, amazing that you always hear double agents in the movies, but you didn't realize they actually existed, and eventually you think you're going to get killed by one side or the other if you do that, right?
and very dangerous. In fact, he knew in any city that he went to, like in Lisbon or in Madrid, he would probably be followed by two different people. One, a British spy, because they're not sure that he's legit, and then two, a German spy, because they're not sure he's legit. So he'd probably be followed by two different sets of other controllers, if you will, and just hope and pray that they didn't meet. The German and the British, and actually it was worse in Lisbon because they had their own secret police. The Portuguese had their own Gestapo, if you will, the PVDE, and they would follow him. So at any point in time, he could have three shadows, not to mention the girl that he would be taking out to dinner, who might very well be a German spy herself.
And plenty of women in the book. We won't give all the details now, but he enjoyed the company of women. Many
in the book. Yes, he made James Bond look like a Boy Scout.
That's right. Well, how do you do research on, obviously, as a spy? I mean, not a lot was written down, I wouldn't think, or was there? How do you do research on a guy like this?
No, well, not by the spies themselves, although Popov would send stuff back to MI5, but for number one, you've got the MI5 files, and because when you're running a double agent, you have to be very careful that he doesn't say the wrong thing or present. They had to give what they call chicken feed, false information to Popov's controller. So they would draft something. Okay, tell them we're doing this, and it would have to be believable but untrue. And so Popov would present that, and then they would look at it and say, okay, well, let's pass it on to Berlin. And at any point in time, if he messes up or forgets or confuses his answers, he had to memorize all of this. So if he got confused, they figured him out, he'd be shot. He'd be tortured, and then he'd be shot. So throughout his whole espionage career, he always lives with that. And so he's got his German masters and his British masters and then American. And then he's got a legitimate cover. He's an export-import businessman. He's got to do that. And then he has all these girls and he entertains at night. So he's literally burning the candle at both ends.
And he died at 25, right?
No. Actually, rule number one for a spy is to survive, and he did.
Yeah, I mean, all that thing, you figured he would have, but yeah, he hung in there. It's a fascinating story.
His cover was actually blown twice, and MI5 wanted him not to go back to Lisbon because they said, look, your cover's blown, you'll be tortured and then executed. And he insisted on going because there was no one else to deceive the Nazis about D-Day.
Name of the book is Into the Lion's Mouth, a true story of Dusko Popov, World War II spy, patriot, and the real-life inspiration for James Bond. And we've been talking to Larry Loftis. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you again on our next edition here of Book Talk on Talk Across America.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.